It's a song that is guaranteed to rearrange your mind. Just ask the legendary artist who wrote it. For this track, neither he nor the band he fronted have much to show for their efforts. I mean, 2 albums in and almost no one knew who they were outside the UK. Actually, they tried touring across America to get their name out there, but their guitarist, he had to be hospitalized twice, completely pulling the rug out from under this band. They needed a hit, so their singer, he wrote one quickly, which would actually start a habit for writing spur-of-the-moment songs, from this one, scribbling down lyrics with nothing to do on a Saturday night, to writing a complete song in the bathtub. No joke. It would alter the sound of this band, and it would make them legendary. It would stop getting compared to bands like Led Zeppelin, who they didn't sound anything like, and people would compare bands to them. It's the story of how they conquered America. The great song coming up next on Professor of Rock. Hey, music junkies, Professor of Rock, always here to celebrate the greatest artists and the greatest songs of all time. You know, if you got life advice from Paul Ingalls from Little House on the Prairie, or Mike Brady from the Brady Bunch, or even one to grow on Saturday morning cartoons, you're gonna dig this channel of pure musical nostalgia.
The surest way to mess things up is not being able to see where you're going. That's what these are for.
Make sure to subscribe below right now. I know you'll find something to dig on this channel. We also have a Patreon you're gonna wanna check out. There you'll find an additional catalog of exclusive content. You can even become an honorary producer to help us curate this music history, all these interviews, keep it a daily channel. So I'm excited to return to another one of my favorite shows that we do on this channel. We haven't done one in a long time. Call it Breakthrough. In this show, we break down songs, albums, or events that kicked open the door to an artist or band's career, and you'll give them that momentum to rocket to long-term success. Today, we're taking a closer look at the origins of a landmark band, and we've covered them several times on this channel. It comes from the legendary, the one and only Queen, with their first successful single here in America, Killer Queen.
Extraordinarily nice. She's a killer queen.
Of course, Queen is a band that really needs no introduction, but I'm going to give you one anyway because I think the contrast between where they began and what they became is pretty pronounced. The group's classic lineup, and for many, their only lineup, consisted of Regal frontman Freddie Mercury, the great Freddie Mercury, guitar great Brian May, John Deacon on bass, as well as Roger Taylor on drums. Together, this foursome launched a legacy that boasts over 125 million albums sold, and that's probably on the low end. Garnered multiple Hall of Fame inductions, stockpiled numerous awards and nominations, and they've given us some of the ultimate powerhouse rock and pop classics of all time. Songs that'll last for thousands of years.
Lightning, very, very frightening me.
And that's only scratching the surface. Just soak that in for a second. Still, this kind of mega success, it didn't happen overnight, although curiously, the song that launched their career actually did happen overnight. More on that coming up. But to begin, let's talk about what wasn't working. Signed to EMI Records in late 1972, Queen commenced their campaign to rule the world with a failed single, actually, Keep Yourself Alive. It was released a week before their self-titled debut record. It came out on July 13th, 1973 in the UK. This song was basically ignored and completely missed the charts in the UK and the US, both. Queen, the album, did score a noteworthy number 24 ranking in the UK, though, although its 83 ranking in the US was more of a bust. Second single, Liar, that was released in February of '74, that also failed to chart. This was still early on, though, and Queen, they were paying their dues. That's what they did back then. After touring to get their name out there, the band then recorded their second album, Queen 2. This one showed more commercial promise. It reached the top 5 in the UK, and it effectively broke the band in their home country. Everybody started knowing who they were. Even so, Freddie and company were still more or less anonymous here in the United States. Queen 2 did land at number 49 on the Billboard album chart, but sales lagged from there. It's actually one of a couple of studio albums that failed to certify gold in the US. Pretty uncommon. With something like 22 multi-platinum or platinum albums to their name, including 3 that are over 20 million sold, coming up short of gold, it's hard to fathom for a band like Queen. Even so, Queen was ready to embrace their destiny and make a name for themselves. So they once again hit the road. After touring through England, the band set out on their first US tour. This happened in the spring of '74, I think it was April. They teamed up with Mott the Hoople, and actually Queen was the supporting act. It was a scenario Mercury wasn't exactly thrilled about. Reportedly, Freddie said that being a supporting act was one of the most traumatic experiences of his life. That doesn't tell you a little bit about this man who's born to be in the spotlight. I don't know what will. But not only did Mercury want all eyes on him, he and the band wanted all eyes on their third overall single, Seven Seas Awry, which they were pushing as their breakthrough track. They thought this was the one that would push them through. The song did well back in the UK. It went to the top 10. However, it was a different story here in the United States, where the potential hit, it was cut short. It's because later in the tour, while in Boston, guitarist Brian Ill fell seriously ill. And after receiving a medical checkup, Brian May was diagnosed with hepatitis. So the remainder of the tour was just scrubbed. Queen flew home to the UK, where Brian May was actually hospitalized. It was a major frustration for the band, who could no longer promote Seven Seas Awry, which had been released in North America in June of '74. They thought it would be their breakthrough. For Brian May, it was a long haul back to full health. It took about 6 full weeks of rest. The breakthrough would have to wait from there. So while Brian May was recovering, Mercury, Taylor, and Deacon, they regrouped at the studio and they got to work on their third LP, Sheer Heart Attack. That was recorded between June and September of '74. The album was co-produced by Queen and Roy Thomas Baker, who returned for his third stint with the band. Classic producer. When Brian did come back, he was still very weak. And then matters only got worse when he fell victim to an intestinal ulcer in August. I've had a couple of those, and it's not good. He was back to the hospital in London. Brian May was convinced his bandmates had had enough of his health hang-ups and thought that they were just going to get rid of him. So to stay valuable, Brian kept busy writing his own compositions, which he later presented to the band. When he finally returned to the studio, Brian May had some catching up to do, of course. His bandmates were already far along on multiple tracks, with John Deacon manning the guitar. But happily, Brian got back to work and contributed 4 of his songs to this album. With Sheer Heart Attack, Queen played really their way into a new sound altogether. These tracks were accessible tracks, and they carried less of the prog rock vibe they had before. Said Freddie about it, as the albums have progressed, our songwriting has progressed, and we sort of ventured into some different areas. We don't like to repeat the same formula. We heard that a couple of weeks ago about Zeppelin. It's hard to argue with the results here. Sheer Heart Attack reached number 2 on the UK album charts. It scored a number 12 ranking in the US, went to number 23 in Japan, 19 in Australia, 9 in Norway, number 7 in Finland, and 6 in France and Canada. The album included 2 singles. There was Killer Queen that came out as the lead. That was released on October 11, 1974. And also Now I'm Here. That one followed on January 17, 1975. Recorded in September of '74, Killer Queen was one of the last songs to go on Sheer Heart Attack. We hear that a lot. Came to Freddie at lightning speed. He explained that Killer Queen was written and arranged in less than a day. Apparently, Freddie scribbled it down half asleep in bed in the dark. Said Mercury about it, "I'm not being conceited or anything, but it just fell into place. It was on a Saturday night, and the next morning I got them all together, worked all day Sunday, and that was it. I got it. It gelled. It was great." If we break down the rest of the song, I want to recognize our sponsor, Zenni Eyewear, the glasses I always wear. What I love most about Zenni, besides their low price, is their variety. I mean, right now, I'm absolutely loving their migraine relief glasses, blending therapeutic relief and a fashionable style for pain-free days and nights. Tailored comfort and therapeutic relief to restore your senses. Just click on our specialized link or the info button right up here to get these and other for up to 80% off regular retail prices. I'm telling you, you're going to love Zenny. Actually, writing the words first, the lyrics first, this was an unusual move for Freddie Mercury. He said Killer Queen was really out of the format that I usually write in. His words. He said that typically the music came first, but he was really smitten with sophisticated phrasing rattling around in his head, so it just started there. Roger Taylor was likewise smitten with this song. Killer Queen always felt a bit special because it was very sophisticated and it was very Freddie Mercury.
To avoid complications, she never kept the same address.
Freddie said his lyrics and songs were mainly fantasies, all made up and not at all down to earth. He had no set rule for writing them. They were haphazard. It was never like he was just, going to sit down at a piano and say, okay, I'm going to write a song. They came when they came. Freddie Mercury had a history of writing songs at just random moments. He actually wrote the #1 hit Crazy Little Thing Called Love when he was taking a bath. Luckily, he didn't drop his lyrics in the water. But when inspiration strikes, you just go with it. And he always did, no matter where he was. Killer Queen may have been written quickly, but the recording, that was a tough one. Actually, after first hearing it, Brian May, he wasn't impressed with it. He said the backing vocals were abrasive and that they needed to be redone, in which they were. Roger Taylor also remembers take after take after take after take of this song as they tried to get the pitch exactly right. And knowing Queen, they did.
In conversation, she spoke just like a baroness, middleman.
That helping matters was Freddie's own stubborn demeanor. One night after a band dinner, Baker asked Mercury to return to the studio to put the finishing touches on the song, the producer, Roy Thomas Baker. Freddie was in full diva mode right there, and he said, "I'm not leaving this chair, dear." Exasperated after trying to talk him into it, Baker called in the roadies for reinforcements, who together lifted Freddie up and carried him to the piano back in the studio. Once he was there, Freddie finally completed the song. One absolutely integral part of this track was its beginning, which just hooks you immediately. And that wasn't by accident.
She keeps motion.
As the story goes, after the chart failures of Keep Yourself Alive and Liar, Baker and May realized that Queen's music, it was taking too long to get to the point. They were losing listeners too quickly, so to remedy this situation, they started placing strong hooks right at the start of the song. Just announcing themselves from the get-go, grabbing listeners instantly.
In a pretty cabinet, let them eat cake, she says,
For example, listen to these iconic openings and tell me that Queen hasn't mastered this formula.
Oh, you're gonna take me home tonight. Buddy, you're a boy, make a big noise, playing in the street, gonna be...
Sure, there were exceptions to the rule, like Bohemian Rhapsody, for one. But let's be honest, that song's from another planet. There's just nothing else like it.
Is this the real life? Is this just...
Killer Queen, for its part, begins with a brief set of finger snaps before launching straight into the vocals. And that introduction with the sound of the piano on the track must have really surprised Queen fans from there. Actually, during the recording of Killer Queen, Freddie made 2 identical piano takes on 2 different pianos. The first was with their studio grand piano, and the second with a piano whose timbre was much closer to an American honky-tonk model. Had that honky-tonk sound. The mix of these 2 takes is what gives the introduction to Killer Queen its standout sound. It just grabs you.
In a pretty cabinet, let them eat cake, she says.
I think the arrival of Queen's distinct new style really suited them. It's just magical, infectious, outright unstoppable. Just pulls you right in. But let's not forget about Brian May. May was understandably upset that he hadn't been able to contribute more to his medical conditions. But the band, they did leave him space for a guitar solo, and it's one of the best. So memorable. Brian May is just a maestro of the guitar solo. Just mind-blowing. far as the song's subject matter goes, the lyrics detail a flashy and eccentric high-class call girl. Caviar, Moet, and Chandon, champagne, Parisian perfume, it's all there.
Caviar and cigarettes, well-versed in etiquette.
This wicked girl has a taste for the best. Let them eat cake, she says, just like Marie Antoinette. She's an anytime invitation you can't decline.
Let them eat cake, she says, just like Marie Antoinette.
Anyway, but he makes a good point about personal interpretations. I mean, kind of steers us to the obvious conclusion here. But the great thing about music is putting your own spin on a song and deciding what it means to you and how it becomes part of your memory. Now, let us know in the comments section, what do you think? What the hell is this song about? Is this a call girl? Who is this girl? Who is the Killer Queen?
In conversation, she spoke just like a baroness.
I almost hate to mention it now after throwing that out there, but I should add that in interviews in the past, Freddie compared his image of the Killer Queen to his idol, Miss Liza Minnelli, who performed the unforgettable Mein Herr in the 1972 film Cabaret. So maybe let's just call that a place to start.
Every cause to doubt me, mein Herr. Bye-bye, mein Herr.
Well-versed in etiquette, speaks just like a baroness, fastidious and precise, and insatiable appetite, Freddie Mercury's Killer Queen is dynamite with a laser beam guaranteed to blow your mind. I love it. It's just such an infectious song. I don't know if you can say it any better than that. And you know what? It's just one of these songs is tattooed on the brain once you hear it.
Dynamite with a laser beam, guaranteed to blow your mind.
Killer Queen did exactly what the title suggests. It was killer. It rocketed Queen out of obscurity all the way up the U.S. charts. It was the band's first big U.S. hit. Went to number 12 on the Billboard Hot 100 in May of '75. It went to number 12 the Cashbox chart. In fact, it was so popular, the single itself, it outperformed the album, Sheer Heart Attack. It sold 2 million copies and changed just in the U.S. It's about 4 times more than the gold certified album. That's incredible. Killer Queen also reached number 2 on the UK singles chart in December of '74, no doubt spurred on by their mid-October Top of the Pops performance.
She's a killer queen, got bad agility.
Internationally, the song went to number 24 in Australia, number 16 in Finland, went to number 15 in Canada, 12 in West Germany, number 10 in Austria, number 4 in Belgium and Norway, and number 3 in the Netherlands, and also went to number 2 in Ireland.
Of a hat, she's as willing as.
So for many mainstream listeners, Killer Queen, it was their first introduction to the band, which counterintuitively framed them not as a rock band, but, you know, a pop outfit. And that didn't sit well with Brian May, at least not at first. Uncomfortable with the track's, pop direction, Brian May expressed doubts about this song, lamenting that some fans would think it was just too lightweight. However, Brian, to his credit, he came around and admitted that this song, it was the turning point for Queen, for this band. He said, it was the song that best summed up our kind of music and a big hit, and we desperately needed it. We were penniless, just like any other struggling rock and roll band. Killer Queen, it altered Queen's destiny. As Taylor confirmed it, it showed a completely new side to the band. In a matter of a week, we stopped being compared to Led Zeppelin and became our own entity. Not that being compared to Zeppelin's a bad thing, but I'm sure you can understand why Queen would be eager to be seen as an original act, their own selves. After that, they were the band that everyone else was comparing new bands to. And it still is that way. Beginning on October 30th, 1974 in Manchester, Queen set off on another British tour. They did 19 dates in 18 cities. The series of concerts ended with 2 amazing performances on November 19th and 20th at London's Rainbow Theatre. And then the following February, Queen returned to America for a 40-show tour, their first as a headlining act. And with them, they had a killer track to play. In the years since, Killer Queen has made its mark on popular culture all over. It's appeared in multiple TV shows and movies, talking about Family Guy and that '70s show to Dark Phoenix and Atomic Blonde. More recently, in 2018, the Freddie Mercury / Queen biopic Bohemian Rhapsody also featured the song prominently. And that prompted a commercial resurgence for the track, sent Killer Queen to number 12 on the US Hot Rock and Alternative Songs chart. Killer Queen, it's also been covered by many. There's Panic at the Disco, Jeff Scott Soto, Alessia Cara.
She's a killer queen, got wild agility.
Sum 41, Matthew Sweet and Susanna Hoffs together.
She's a killer queen, got wild agility.
A fragrance launched by pop star Katy Perry was also named after the song in 2013. Putting on her best Killer Queen person, Perry featured the track in an extended commercial. I'll withhold my comments on the absurdity of fragrance commercials, but I'll say instead that maybe it helped the song reach a new generation of listeners, which is a positive. Commenting on Killer Queen, Freddie Mercury would say, and I quote, "A lot of my songs are fantasy. I can dream up all kinds of things. We're very proud of that number. It's just one of the tracks I wrote for the album. It wasn't written as a single. I just wrote a batch of songs for a sheer heart attack. And when I finished writing it and we then recorded it, we found it was a very strong single. At that time, it was very unlike Queen. It was another risk that we took, but every risk we took up to that time, it paid off." End of quote. This was the very first Queen song that I heard as a little boy. My dad played it on our turntable in the family room. We had this shag carpet. I was hooked. It just sounded like it came from another planet with those high harmonies, and it scared the hell out of me, I'll be honest with you. I mean, when you hear those as a little kid, you're just not used to hearing music like that. My dad told me years later, I don't remember this, but he told me that he found me hiding behind a bookcase after the record was over, and he had to kind of calm me down. It was the beginning of a beautiful relationship with Queen that I've now passed on to my own kids. Man, dynamite like a laser beam indeed. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Leave us a comment about Queen and Killer Queen. What are your memories of this song? What do you think about the sound of Queen before and after this song? Let's have a great discussion about Freddie Mercury and Brian May. Just such a great guitar voice duo. I can't say enough about it. If you like our content, we invite you to subscribe below. We'd love to have you. Until next time, 3 chords and the truth, my friends.